It's the Mandalorian. Just kidding. We're talking Book of Boba Fett. Right here, Applesauce and Baloney. I'm Thor.
I'm Eric.
And lot to
Welcome
catch up
back.
on.
Yeah,
lot
welcome
to catch
back.
up on. Sorry, things have been interesting. I went on a vacation and then, of course, came home and COVID ran rampant through my house. So we've been down for a little bit, and but we're back.
We're back.
So-
It's the return. It's the return of Applesauce and Baloney. It's the return of the Mandalorian.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've got a couple weeks of Boba Fett to catch up on. This isn't a recap show, so we're just going to assume you've seen the latest episode, Chapter 5 of the Book of Boba Fett.
Yep.
And then we'll work our way back as things come up. Lots to talk about, so let's get started. Wow. Yeah, so Book of Boba Fett has started slow. The last few episodes have been churning out so much fan service. Let's start with this latest one, the return of the Mandalorian.
Right.
It was nice to get some cool tones. Nice to get off of Tatooine. If I have one criticism,
and wow, what a cool scenery, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that was super Star Wars.
Yeah, very, very neat. New location out in space. Some kind of, I don't even think they name it, do they?
No.
It's unnamed. But the circular, sort of the circular world or space station land. That we get back to the Mandalorian. We get some questions, I think, that have been nagging us all. I think good call, taking this little break. I think we all knew the Mandalorian was going to show up, especially at the end of the last episode. They had the Mandalorian theme, so
Right.
I wasn't completely surprised. But yeah, nice change to get off of Tatooine. I think Favreau knew they needed to do that. And we had some questions answered. Where does Jaren go? Obviously, he separates from Bo-Katan and the other Mandalorians, the other Mandalorians, and he's back on his mission to find his people, which he does. So
Right,
we have.
but- I mean, you're right, but like to a point, it was kind of it's a little bit of a weird episode for me because yes, we knew that Mando was going to show up. Yes, it makes sense that he shows up because this
Right.
is a tie-in to the next season of Mandalorian. But it's a little disconnected for me. Like I almost would rather see this as part of the beginning episode of the next season of The Mandalorian.
Right.
Because, yeah, there were a lot of questions that we needed, but none of those questions are relevant to the Book of Boba Fett. Nothing really answered anything about what's happening to the previous 4 episodes.
True. I agree. I agree to a point. I think it was a good trade-off because we kind of had a Boba Fett episode in the last season of The Mandalorian. I think this goes a long way. This episode, it goes a long way. If we're looking at the Book of Boba Fett as a book, Din Djarin is a part of his story now. And so the last episode, the previous episode, Chapter 4 of the Book of Boba Fett, was sort of a flashback. Even again, it was also kind of tied into Mandalorian because we got to see Boba Fett rescuing Fennec Shand, and even a earlier introduction in the timeline of the cyberpunks, the mod punks, whatever you want to call them, who sort of explaining how he brings Fennec Shand back to life. Explaining how he gets Slave 1 back. Really cool fight with the Sarlacc pit. And so yeah, kind of, and we kind of knew we were going to see the Sarlacc pit again, and we were going to see some more flashbacks of Boba Fett's story. So I actually didn't mind this, not just because of the awesome fan service, and we'll definitely get to the N1 Starfighter, my favorite part of this whole thing. But I felt like Favreau did a lot of legwork. It's almost like his sort of homage and his ties back to the Mandalorian, of sort of setting things up, just like we kind of got a little bit of setup with Boba Fett and the Mandalorian, getting to get past some of the stuff that I think would have been it's kind of like I was going to say earlier, my criticism of Book of Boba Fett is that it's kind of started slow, and it's had to spend a lot of its narrative energy and time doing things that we already kind of know and expect are going to happen. So this episode of The Mandalorian or Boba Fett is kind of the first episode of next season, but it gets it out of the way. So now when we see him in his new ship, or he has Grogu again, or whatever's going to happen, then we're going to get we're going to get further along in The Mandalorian faster, which is, I think, what we all want. You know, and answer some of the questions that I think people have been worried about on the internet, like, what about Grogu? What are they going to do with this? Does he go off with Bo-Katan? Obviously not. Obviously, they decide to part ways, and she, if I had a problem with it, if this episode felt a little disjointed to me, I felt like I needed an explanation why Bo-Katan just let him walk off with the Darksaber.
Right. Well, I mean, it's a lot of weirdness with the Darksaber and Bo-Katan and the Mandalorians in general. Because again, Mando gets back to his clan, which is now a clan of 2, that ups itself to a clan of 3, and then at the end,
momentarily
back to a clan of 2 right. again. Which kind of was a little funny for me, because like she welcomes him back completely and is like, "Oh, hey, welcome back. You're now part of our clan." And it's not until after they fight and after like he's almost kills Vizsla in the fight for the Darksaber, right. where she's like, "Wait, have you ever taken your helmet off?" And he's like, Well, yeah. She's like,
okay.
Well, then go.
So, right. So that is one of the things I'm glad they took care of in this episode, is because I kind of was wondering. I think we've all been wondering ever since Din Djarin took his helmet off in the last season of Mandalorian. You know, it was removed by a droid, you know, at the end of season 1, so we can give him a pass on that, right?
Right.
But he takes it off a couple of times in season 2, and I really liked that they took care of that, because that was definitely something bugging in my brain that I think narratively they needed to take care of, so they could tell the story that they want to tell in the next season of Mandalorian. But we all knew that Din Djarin's an honest guy, and the second he saw the Armorer again, or any of his other clan, and they asked him, we knew what the answer would have to be, right? He'd have to admit it, and then they would kick him out. So it's not out of nowhere that she asks him, because if you think back to the very
it's not
first,
out of nowhere. It's not. I just thought it was
funny. If you think back to the first
episode
that we see them fight, actually pre-Vizsla and Din Djarin, she doesn't ask them until after they fight that first time. So this is a callback to that.
I guess you're right. Yeah.
So it's part of their.
It's kind of like the end of a battle.
Exactly.
Of declaring your intentions or something.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
Okay.
So it's not out of nowhere. When I first saw it, I thought exactly like you did. I thought exactly like you did, and then I was like, oh wait, that's actually a callback to. So they're staying. But if you don't remember that moment, it does seem like, oh hey, by the way, you know.
Yeah. But again, you know, it brings up something that's gonna be cool, and it's something that I hope they deal with more in the next season of The Mandalorian. Mm-hmm. Which is talking more about that division of the Mandalorians. You know, the armor in this episode very much said there was a sect of Mandalorians that went against the Creed. So, you know, he's going to have to, being the person that ultimately wields the Darksaber.
From a certain point of view. From their point of view.
Yeah.
So Bo-Katan's clan, they were up on Concord Dawn. They were the other sect. You know?
So I think that's going to be real interesting, because he's going to have to be, quote unquote, the great unifier. So I think that's going to be an interesting story to tell. This episode was really great for me. I loved this last episode. I've liked the last. I've liked Book of Boba Fett. It's good. Is it the show that I expected? Maybe not. Is it the show I wanted? Maybe not. It's good, but this episode really hit home, and I don't wonder if it's because, again, we're back with Mandalorian in familiar territory. Either that, or it's Bryce Dallas Howard. She's
good.
She gave us the feel that we got from the other Mandalorian episodes. You know, it's not Peli, it's not the droids, it's not it's cool shipbuilding montage, but I really feel like the two worlds between Book of Boba Fett and Mandalorian are so starkly different. but I enjoyed this episode so much, and I can't wait for the next season of The Mandalorian. This really make me hungry for that next season.
I agree. I mean, I can't. I'm so excited for next season of Mandalorian, and I think that's why I like that they took this break and did a Din Djarin episode to kind of whet our appetites and say, okay, here, he's gonna go look for Grogu. I don't know if we'll see Din Djarin again, except maybe at the end with Grogu at the very end of Book of Boba Fett, because they might do a little crossover where the Mandalorian happens, because that was happening here with Book of Boba Fett, where we definitely saw some crossover with them putting the Stormtrooper helmets on the spikes with Book of Boba Fett. So I think timeline-wise, I think we might see, the next season of Mandalorian could start with just what we're all talking about and expecting as well, which is another Luke Skywalker cameo.
Right.
Disney did hire the guy who did the better version of the deep fake for Luke Skywalker off of the internet. So maybe they did that for a reason.
Yeah.
So
I'm even wondering if we're going to see him somewhere in the next 2 episodes of the Book of Boba Fett, because obviously they're setting up that Mandalorian's going to go off and look for Grogu again.
Right.
So does that happen before he helps Boba Fett with whatever task he
that's what I'm saying.
Do?
It could
Grogu
cross
come
over
back
and then
use the Force at the end, because we got 2 episodes left, so there's not a whole lot left of the Book of Boba Fett.
Well,
to go.
and what about our little Grogu present that Din Djarin made out of Beskar for Grogu?
Right.
So
Does
yeah,
it look
what
like
if
chainmail to you?
Yeah, well, I think it's going to be chainmail or a necklace or like a little pendant for him to wear with their symbol that they have, the mudhorn.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I think that there's a good chance that we might not see Din Djarin until the climactic final chapter of Boba Fett, and that crosses over with season 3 of The Mandalorian. But let's circle back to the N1 starfighter, the Nabooian N1 starfighter. When it was first under the cloak, I actually thought it might be General Grievous's starfighter.
I agree. I thought the same thing.
Oh my
god,
the
engines looked.
But I could not have been happier to see the N1 Naboo starfighter. And by the way, it's Anakin's, right? Like in the grand scheme of things, it has to be.
I mean, I didn't freeze the frame and take a look at the lettering underneath the pilot's cockpit, but I'm willing to bet that's going to be Anakin's ship.
I mean,
someone's
everything we know
going to
about...
go out there. Someone's going to read the Naboo language. Yeah. Someone's going to translate that. We're going to find out.
But you and I are calling it right now, because I'm pretty sure just from my memory that when she tells him, they're handmade, not by droids, that is right out of the Episode 1 Visual Dictionary information on the N1 starfighter. Handmade, under commission by the Queen of Naboo. These are handcrafted starfighters. And obviously the R2 bubble that she hollows out, that's going to be Grogu's seat.
Yep.
I think we all know that too. But what a great, like I said, what a great callback to Episode 1.
They're doing a solid job with picking out all these little things from Star Wars and putting them in. We got the N1 starfighter. We got the BD-1 droid that we had in Jedi Fallen Order, which is an amazing droid. I want to see more of those. I love that little droid.
Right. What a cool throw in. But I mean, not only did we get the N1 starfighter, but we got so many references to Episode 1. That's why I'm saying this has to be Anakin's. This has to be Anakin's starfighter. So Din Djarin is now flying Anakin Skywalker's N1 starfighter, and not only does he fly it, and not only did it, like everything Skywalker, find its way back to Tatooine, but he flies it through the pod racing course from Episode 1. He flies it through Beggar's Canyon.
Yeah.
I mean, so many great... I mean, we're talking deep cut Star Wars fan service here.
And we see a Womp Rat. So now we know how hard it is to target Womp Rats while you're driving through Beggar's Canyon.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and let's talk about that final N1 starfighter, because it's
Wizard. It's
It
wizard.
is wizard.
It is
which by the way, was quite possibly the only way I'll ever approve of Star Wars using the term wizard, because it sounded awful when Anakin said it, but somehow Din Djarin makes the term
loved it.
wizard.
I've always loved wizard. Favreau's wanted to use McClunky. Filoni wasn't there to tell him he couldn't use wizard, and he did, and I'm glad he did. You know, I'm a Filoni fan.
Yeah.
But Favreau's a different kind of fan, and I think that's weighing heavily on the Book of Boba Fett being a different kind of show than The Mandalorian, and I'm okay with that.
So Filoni is very much the Star Wars purist. He knows what Star Wars is and how to craft that. I think Favreau is much more of a George Lucas. You know, he's playing more on the themes of what made Star Wars. And we get that in the mod biker game. We get that in the hot rod N1 Starfighter.
Yeah.
You know, he's going back to the literal roots of what George Lucas brought into Star Wars, which is samurai.
Right. I would say
fighter
that
jets.
he's more. Yeah, I would say that Favreau's more of a less of a George Lucas, but he's just a different kind of, because Lucas is the purist. He has the aesthetics, but Favreau deep dives into Favreau wants to play with the Rancor. Favreau, the things that George Lucas or Filoni are like, yeah, that's visually Star Wars, but that's not philosophically deeply Star Wars. Favreau's bringing this definite, I do want to play with the toys. If we're gonna have Jabba's palace, I got to have the Rancor part of that set. You know, let's hot rod up the old N1 and bring that back.
Yeah, we got to have the Rancor. We got to have the Sarlacc. We got to have Max Rebo. We got to have the Cantina Band. You know, he's very much cherry picking what to him makes Star Wars, and those items are very much what makes Star Wars. It's fun, and it's playing to new fans, it's playing to old fans, it's playing to, prequel lovers, it's playing to classic lovers, it's playing a little bit to the sequel lovers. Yes, I know they're out there. People love the sequels. It's okay. You can love any part of Star Wars that you want. It's okay.
Yeah, and I like that this is setting up, and I think people need to be prepared for. I like The Mandalorian, but we need to give Star Wars the room, like we're saying, to be different things. And there are different types of Star Wars now. We've got, we've got the purist Star Wars. We've got the playing with all the cool toys Star Wars. And Ahsoka is going to be a different kind of Star Wars.
Yeah.
So I think Ahsoka, Mandalorian is that's why I think where Filoni and Favreau do really well together. It's a really great mix between the purist stuff and what makes Star Wars whimsy and fun. And that's the part I think that you're saying George Lucas is like, or Favreau is like Lucas, is he's into the whimsy. He's into the more silly, the geeky, nerdy, the Star Wars fan stuff. Whereas Filoni's coming from it from that Zen, Taoist, George Lucas,
so what you're saying,
mindset.
So what you're saying is it's a Jedi versus a smuggler. We have the scoundrel,
exactly,
and it's
Favreau is absolutely the salty smuggler Han Solo type, and that's what I think makes him and Rodriguez perfect to do Book of Boba Fett. Now Ahsoka, I think we can expect Ahsoka, and there was some references to Ahsoka and the spear and finding the Jedi and stuff. I think that show is going to throw people in another way, because that's going to be all Filoni, and that one is going to be very deep. It's going to be very philosophical. It's going to be very I feel like Ahsoka is not going to care if you know what they're talking about. He's going to tell a story, and if you don't know your Star Wars Bantha Poodoo, then there's other shows for you to watch at this point.
Yeah, no, it's for Ahsoka. If you haven't watched the Clone Wars, or Rebels, you're not going to understand Ahsoka. So that's
it's going to be too deep.
So if you haven't done your background, if you're not that big of a Star Wars fan and you want to watch Ahsoka based on what you saw in The Mandalorian, do your homework. There's plenty of stuff out there. Ahsoka is by far one of the best Star Wars characters that have ever been created.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, and by far one of the coolest Jedi, even though she's technically not a Jedi, but what is a Jedi anymore?
Right. And so far, I think we're seeing a cool mix on what Star Wars can be. You know, the Mandalorian, I think, is just it's chef kiss. Yeah. It's a perfect mix between Han and Luke. We're gonna get the Jedi and the Smuggler, as we're calling them. But Boba Fett is a different type of Star Wars. That one it's very I don't want to. It's one-dimensional, a little more one-dimensional than Mandalorian, but in a good way, where it's not it's just trying to tell us a good old Star Wars cowboy story. Here's a reimagining of this iconic legacy character, Boba Fett, and here's what we're going to do with it. And, take it or leave it, but you're not going to have to think too hard. Then we're going to have Ahsoka. You better do your homework. Then we're going to have Obi-Wan. I think Obi-Wan is going to switch back to, I hope, a good mix between the fandom and the fun that Favreau brings, and then I think Obi-Wan is Deborah Chow, right? That's her baby.
I believe so. Yeah,
that's her baby. Yeah. And I think probably Bryce Dallas Howard will do some episodes. I think she'll probably direct some episodes. I hope, because like you said, she gets Star Wars. Yeah, she does, because this episode of Mandalorian. Or Boba Fett. Yeah, it is an episode of Mandalorian because it feels like it. It really does.
It's really hard because it really, like, it's officially a Mandalorian episode that ties into the Book of Boba Fett. So really, this is Mandalorian season 3 episode 0.1.
Yeah, exactly. Episode 0.
Not an episode of Book of Boba Fett. So Book of Boba Fett officially only has 6 episodes with an extra episode of Mandalorian just nestled in the middle.
Yeah, I mean, well, and like I said, that's exactly what they did. Boba Fett had his own episode that was, Mandalorian and Grogu were kind of in it. Yeah. But yeah, no, I'm excited to see where it goes. We're definitely we'll be here week to week for the next 2 episodes.
Two more episodes of Book of Boba Fett.
Book of Boba Fett.
It's I mean, I know they're gonna do it justice. I know it's going to be amazing because every Disney Plus show that's played so far that's only been 6 to 8 episodes, I keep watching it and I'm like, how are you have 2 episodes left, how do you do this, how do you tie up the story? And somehow every show they do, they find a way to tie everything up in a neat little bow and make it amazing. And
well, you know what, I'm not worried about that with Book of Boba Fett. This is the first time. And again, maybe a little bit of a criticism there, but this is the first time I feel like, 2 episodes, especially because these episodes are running long. They're almost averaging 50 minutes a piece. So I think, now time has passed. So I'm going to call baloney on myself. And now maybe I'm wrong. I shouldn't be calling myself out just yet. But I said in earlier episodes that for sure the Tusken Raiders were going to come back. I'm pretty sure I did.
Well, I mean, they did, kind of.
Yeah, but I thought they were going to come back at the end. Now, unless he goes and winds up all the tribes like Avatar and gets other tribes of Tuskens to come and help him, no, they killed all the Tuskens. And that's one of the things.
All the men and the women and the children. Yeah,
yeah, man. Tuskens in Star Wars, they've got it rough.
Yeah, which again is kind of the story that they're telling.
Yeah, they do have it rough. I think we obviously missed a bunch of stuff that we could go back and talk about with the previous episodes of Boba Fett.
Yeah, I mean,
I really liked
Danny
Fennec
Trejo.
Yeah,
Black Chrysanthemum, which if I'm mispronouncing that, I have no idea. It's a Wookiee. My mouth won't make Wookiee noises.
I looked it up. I think it's Chrysanthemum.
Yeah.
It's Chrysanthemum.
Chrysanthemum.
He's from the Dr. Aphra comic books. He's a badass. He's blowing up the internet. He's basically big bad Grogu for this season of Star Wars television. Everybody's
and all the monster effers are out there.
They are. They are. Yeah. People want to get on that. Yeah. Chrysanthemum train.
First it was the Tuskens, then it's Black Chrysanthemum.
No, he's hot. Chrysanthemum's hot. I'm only mad at myself that I didn't say earlier. That should have been one of our first things we talked about, is when do we see Danny Trejo or Antonio Banderas in Book of Boba Fett. The answer was it's only a matter of time. But what a perfect role for him to play as the Rancor trainer. What a great, again, we have to talk for a minute. I mean, we're talking deep cut Star Wars here. We mentioned the Witches of Dathomir.
Yes.
We're talking about canon. Rancors aren't big, stupid beasts. People ride them. We're going to get to see Boba Fett ride the Rancor. And I got to take a tiny little sidestep here. And do you remember when Boba Fett first sees the Rancor and he says he's ridden bigger?
Yeah.
I have a question for you.
That's definitely a callback to the Christmas special, right?
Right.
Definitely a callback to the Christmas special.
Right. So you read my mind. So are what we saying here is that the Star Wars Christmas special Boba Fett animated segment
is canon?
Is that canon? Because
I don't want to go there because
Han Solo says Boba Fett.
Yeah.
And that means that he's met him before, and Han Solo didn't meet Boba Fett on Cloud City. But Han Solo didn't even know Boba Fett was there until, boom, and we have to assume that he met him before that, because he didn't know who he was. He was just in the room with Darth Vader.
Yeah.
When, he invites him to dinner. So,
yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, and that means, has Boba Fett ridden a mythosaur?
Right.
Because the armor mentions a mythosaur and them only being legend. Now, in the last season of Mandalorian, Boba Fett comes out and says that he kind of implies that he knows some more things than Din Djarin knows through his sect of the Mandalorians. So, do that sect of those armor think that mythosaurs are all gone, and then Boba Fett can turn to Din Djarin in the next episode and say oh, hey, by the way, I've ridden a mythosaur. They're not all dead. And
I don't know about that.
I'm just spitting some baloney here.
I don't know about that, but I definitely feel, and again, now we're speculating on Mandalorian season 3, which is, I guess, this podcast episode we're talking about is the Mandalorian. This is less Boba Fett and more Mandalorian.
It's the Bobalorian.
Yeah. So, she mentions that he has to go down into the lower levels of Mandalore, right? Into the caverns of Mandalore. So I'm throwing it out there. He's going to go down to the lower levels of the burnt out capital of Mandalore, and he's going to find a mythosaur, or at least a giant full skeleton of one.
What a great Terminator! Cool. Yeah, what a great, by the way, Terminator to call homage visually of the Night of 1,000 Tears. That was intense
all those TIE bombers and the way that building exploded.
And the K droids, the K2SO
droids,
droids just walking through Terminators.
Very, very Terminator. Yeah, that was
very
cool
much, very apocalyptic.
Because we haven't really seen that in Star Wars. We've had the battle droids, and that didn't really evoke the same feeling. But these K2SO droids, and which I think is kind of what we were going to get with the super stormtroopers, is that it's the mindless automaton that's stomping through and destroying humanity.
Right.
It was dark, but so cool.
So awesome. So, we'll. I'm sure we missed a bunch of stuff. We'll get back to it next week. You're going to get some double helpings. You're going to get some double helpings over the next couple weeks to catch us up. If you're new, thanks for stopping by. Please like and share. If you're old and you gave up on us and you gave us one more chance, welcome back. But yeah, let's get this thing rolling for 2022. Applesauce and baloney. See you next time.